SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Come see your locally owned and operated Linton Glass for all your glass needs. No matter what glass you need to replace, you can count on Linton Glass. Call us today at 601-835-4336 or find us on the web at lintonglass.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Come to you live here. Remember, we are presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. How are you doing this morning, Lance? Good to see you.
Welcome in, Lucian. What's going on, brother?
Going all right. Been a little while. Came in hot this morning. I've barely seen you.
Yeah. When the gate guy's not there, I always worry about the guest host because you never know.
Well, there was a ton of traffic pulling in. I was actually surprised because I had the same thought when I was coming in. I thought, I don't have my ID anymore. My 4-year-old, Lance already heard this, has hidden my wallet, which is, made for some adventurous experiences, and I refuse to admit that we've completely lost it. So I have not replaced my ID card, but I had that thought driving in. I thought, gosh, I hope the security guard's there to open the gate. But fortunately, there were several people who were getting here in the 6 o'clock hour. So we've got some people in this complex getting some work done. So if you're listening, good job. They must have big days today.
I noticed the traffic today was a little bit more brisk than normal.
I don't know why that is.
Thursday, everybody's getting ready for the weekend. Ole Miss plays a big game today. Starts off their SEC weekend on a Thursday. Maybe people are just ready for the weekend. You had the cold snap. I don't know. Cats were running around.
Something was going on.
Lot. I normally don't see my stray cats out there. I saw 4 of them this morning. So, something's going on.
I only saw one red light on the way here. It was straight green lights all the way. So.
You don't have that far to go. That's all.
No. It's a straight shot. But it's one of those straight shots where, and I realize if you're a smart, thoughtful person, and this would be what I would probably say if one of my children were worried about running late, I'd go, buddy, you could leave 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
And there'd be 10 minutes less pressure.
I tell myself that every morning.
Yeah, but you turn on County Line, and you come down, you see the green lights, and you go, okay, it's going to be a good day. So
whenever it is fun though to know that it's going to be a good day when you hit the green lights. Today, I don't think I had one red light all the way, other than like a brief little stop and go.
Right.
So, it's like this is going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day for everybody out there because we're started out early.
That's exactly right.
We're getting you going.
And everybody listening is starting their day the right way. This is what you ought to be doing in the 6 o'clock hour.
Exactly. Well, it'll be a beautiful weekend as far as the weather goes. I think we're going to have pretty much some copy and paste weather throughout the state of Mississippi. Today it'll be back up to 77 here in the Delta area, central Mississippi. I don't really see anything to worry about until you get way out into the forecast we don't even want to talk about, which would be a week out. So from about now
bad again in a week?
Well, no, it's just we'll deal with a week out when we get there. But for the week in advance, from today until Wednesday of next week, you're going to have 70s and 80s in the day, 50s, at night, maybe 60. So it should be some beautiful weather, sunny all the way through that week. I don't really see anything coming. Right now it's a little brisk in the morning, but it'll start warming up. I think it's about 38.
Oh, it's chilly right
down
now.
On the coast as well. But it'll start warming up today. You'll get 75, be around 49 or 50 tonight on the coast, up to about Hattiesburg. Great weather for baseball, to be honest. You really can't beat it.
Well, we're due for that. I don't like this little spring, or I guess it's not technically spring, but yeah. I mean, in the fall when it gets cold, you start thinking, well, football's here. We're about to be in hunting season. Christmas is coming. I mean, the cold feels nice. It doesn't feel nice in March.
It doesn't after you've had 80s and you've been sitting out and you've got yard work done. You've planted things. I had one of my neighbors came over, was shooting some hoops the other day, and she walked by with a box of seeds that somebody had mailed her, and she had put probably a day's worth of work putting things in the ground. This was right before the cold snap, and she brought them to me. She goes, I have so many here. Would you take these? I know you'll plant them. I said, yeah, of course. And I said, have you already put these in the ground? She goes, yes. So I was like, uh-oh, because you never know until you get to about Easter. And Easter's a little early.
No, that's right.
You never know with planting stuff that's a little sensitive to the cold.
Well,
if you went out and bought ferns, same way, I hope you put them up for a couple of nights.
That's exactly right. Look, I couldn't find my warm coat. The kids wanted to go out and play baseball over the weekend. Mm-hmm. And, I years ago when I worked for Governor Bryant, he had the garage at the mansion. He would sit out there and visit with people after work. But it was a true garage. There wasn't like a heating system. So if it was cold, it was cold. And I learned early on to keep a heavy Carhartt in the back of my truck because he'd invite you. He'd say, well, sit around, let's catch up on some things. But you can't tell the governor it's too cold for us to hang out. You're going to sit there and visit with your boss. But I remember freezing to death out there. And so I started keeping it in my truck. And, because it's gotten warm, I guess I took the thing out and put it somewhere. And so I couldn't find it. I was freezing out there playing baseball. But, you gotta take those opportunities when they come.
Man, that is a really cool story. I've always wondered. Yeah, living in the governor's mansion. It's obviously a lot of pomp and circumstance in this beautiful home that so many influential and leaders in this state have lived in. But, you hang out in the garage. That's the most Mississippi coolest thing ever. Like, hey, boys, let's go out here and hang out in the garage and talk a little bit. That is the coolest thing.
And it really, you would imagine that space as being just ornate. Mm-hmm. It was it was a garage. Like, if you didn't know you were at if you didn't turn around and see the governor's mansion out of the garage door, this could have been at any house anywhere in this state. It was just your basic garage. And it had been where the trustees, used to be at the governor's mansion. There was a trustee program where people who had served a long time in the prison system would come and help run the governor's mansion. And Governor Bryant got rid of that when he became governor, and they took the space. And you could see even though they painted it, you could still see where the bunk beds had been bolted into the wall for the trustees because they lived on the grounds. Wow. And they just converted it to a garage. It had not expensive furniture in it and a TV, and then a little $50 plug-in heater, which I'm sure violated the Bureau of Buildings policies. No, there weren't any lawnmowers, but the governor had his Nomad. He loved working on the. I'm gonna get the year wrong. I didn't prepare for the mansion segment, but a mid 20th century Nomad, I think, made by Chevrolet, and I can't wait for the C Spire text line to light up with people correcting me.
The older vehicle car.
Oh yeah, this wasn't his regular. No.
I remember I worked for him many years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Well, in the auditor's race, right?
The first auditor's race.
I remember him telling me that.
Yeah, he was appointed, and then he had to run, and that was a blast getting to do that. A statewide election, and there was two of us, and we had a blast. And he was such a great guy to. At that point, because he wasn't governor yet, he hadn't been lieutenant. Right. He was on the upswing, and it was so much fun to get to know him that way and watch the rise of Phil Bryant over the years because he was a genuinely good guy. And I had a lot of fun just getting to ride around, hear things, talk, hear stories. And just become closer to the man that became such a force.
Well, he was. I say was. He is still doing great. He's still working, still healthy. So there's no news there.
He still got the boots on.
Absolutely,
yes, sir.
But that was one thing I always really appreciated about he and the First Lady was just what good people they were. You get to that top level, you got staff around you. He didn't do this. Governor Reeves doesn't do this. But if you wanted somebody to come into your room every morning, first thing, and hand you a cup of coffee, there were people who could have done that. Yeah. And as a result, some people get that, and I think they kind of turn into people who have expectations about how they should be treated. That's right, and entitled. And they were just regular people. I'll tell one more story before we go to break here, but I remember Larry on the C Spire text line was pointing out he had a motorcycle in his garage. That's right, he had a motorcycle he liked to ride. But it was one of the first events where I was chief of staff, And we had, I forget who it was for, probably some diplomatic function, but they were, when it ended, they were starting to clear plates, and I kind of thought, well, goodness gracious, I'm the governor's chief of staff. I'm not going to be clearing plates here. I need to be talking to people. And I turn around, and the first lady is picking up a tray and taking it back to the kitchen. And I thought, by God, it's time to get over there and start getting some plates, Mr. Big Timer.
Take off the cufflinks and get to work.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But that was the sort of people that they are, just sort of unaffected by it.
That was the way my experience with them both was the same way. Just really nice, genuine people, and very humble too. Just normal, hardworking folks. But I love to pick his brain about the times it was fire investigations and. I mean, that's
had great stories.
Yeah, man, that was
great stories.
World.
Goodness.
But
it's been a decade since I worked for him, which is why this is in the past tense. But yeah, he's a great guy. It's a great family.
Well, thanks for the stories. That's some
absolutely.
Great reminiscing and nostalgia there. Because I've always been curious how the life at the governor's mansion actually exists for those living and working there.
Yeah.
It's like a house.
It is a house. It's also a museum. We can talk some more about it here as we go on, y'all. This is Lucian Smith here with Lance on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi.
Go ahead on and howl under the moonlight. 'Cause I got my baby by my side. Boy, she's the sweetest thing you ever seen. The dog is howling, and the hound.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
What's different about us?
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. You're starting your 6 o'clock hour the right way here with us. And if you want to be part of the conversation, as some people already have, send us a text at the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. We were talking about the governor's mansion before the break, just a little bit reminiscing. No, there was a lower level, but no, there were no tunnels, and it's an interesting building, Lance, because there's a front section of it that is public and very ornate. That's really a museum. I mean, you can tour it. I don't know the schedule now, but there are a few days a week. You can go to the mansion. There are some volunteers who will show you around, tell you the history of the place, and it's a beautiful. It is a beautiful historic section. Used to be occupied. Occasionally, when dignitaries have come in the past, they'll put them up there. Juan Carlos, the King of Spain, came.
I got to hang out with he and his wife,
Did
Queen
you really?
Sophia, in the Spanish Secret Service. What a cool honor that was! Yeah, I worked for the Majesty of Spain as the.
That's why I was here.
Yeah, marketing and finance. Back then.
That was a heck of an exhibit.
Oh man, that was great. They were all really good, but getting the king and queen to come to Mississippi first
was a
of all,
big deal.
Big deal. The other side was you're talking to a monarch.
True.
That was the coolest thing. I didn't really understand. I mean, I was fairly young still. I understood what a king was. I understood who Juan Carlos and the lineage and everything after Franco. I mean, I know my history. But it really never really sunk in how big of an honor that was for me to get meet a king and queen. Literally shake their hand, stand next to them, and talk to them. And then the Spanish Secret Service, what a cool group of people they were.
Well, he apparently stayed there, and I'm told they put him in the historic section because it's more ornate, and for some other reasons I'll tell you in a second. But I think he slept in every bed there because all the mattresses were so uncomfortable because it's designed. It's a little bit like going to the antebellum homes in Natchez or Columbus or somewhere.
Yeah, it's a museum.
It's a museum. Nobody's sitting there going, well, we need to get a new Sealy Posturepedic for the such and such room. Yeah. But then the residence where they actually live is nice, but it's essentially a nice apartment over the store. It's you would imagine that the governor's private residence would be just this palatial space. And let me be clear, it's nice. He's not, the water's not leaking through the ceiling more often than not. But it's not this palace, and it's had to go under some pretty extensive renovations. They weren't able to stay there for a good part of his first term, but it's not just a massive.
Well, I got some info to
there.
share with
Come
folks
on.
if they want to go see the governor's mansion or get inside. First occupied 1842. It's the second oldest continuously occupied governor's residence in the United States of America.
That's right.
In 1975, it was designated as a historic landmark, and making it at the time one of only 2 state gubernatorial residences to receive the honor. So docent guided tours are available by advance reservation Tuesday through Thursday mornings, 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. Tour time is 30 to 40 minutes. And admission is free, and all you have to do is go to msgovernorsmansion.com to arrange your free tour.
And it is worth going and checking out. It's a very cool space if you've never seen it.
No, I need to check it out. I love architecture and things of that nature, especially something as important as our governor's mansion.
That's right.
I've never been. I mean, I've been around it 100,000
Oh,
times.
you should absolutely go. It's very cool. The grounds are beautiful, and that front space is a very neat place to see. A lot of history there. I think we only can say that it's the second oldest continuously occupied, because for some period of time it was occupied by Union generals during the Civil War.
Those guys.
But we use that to be able to say we're the second continuously
They're like,
occupied.
we like that house.
That's right.
Let's use that one.
That's exactly
Well, we have
right.
a few birthdays probably worth mentioning today.
It looked like a good list.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. You got Bruce Willis, 1955. He's had some issues with the mental acuity, and I've heard he's got he's suffering a little bit there.
It's kind of a dementia-ish thing,
dementia,
right?
Yeah, Alzheimer's dementia. Glenn Close, 1947. She's been in everything.
She really has.
And then you got you're reeling off a couple of bad guys here with Adolf Eichmann, 1906.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a German military official, one of the bad guys, And then before him a year was Albert Speer, the German architect that basically designed all of Hitler's, all of the buildings and things such as that. And then the American politician that most people probably, they've heard of him, but he was a real force in his time, 1860, William Jennings Bryan. Big-time dude there. One of the things that happened on this day, ironically, on this day in 2003, the U.S. President George Bush ordered airstrikes on Baghdad, thus launching the Iraqi
The beginning
war.
of the war.
Yeah, so we're not far off of the, a couple weeks in the grand scheme of the Iranian war, that is, if you want to call it
that's
such.
a good point.
And so dealing with that, let's see if there was some other interesting things I'd seen on there. You remember Arthur C. Clarke?
Right.
Yeah. 2001 Space Odyssey. He died on this day in 2008. That's a heck of a movie, man. Goodness.
I hadn't seen that in so long.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick does the movie, Arthur Clarke being the writer of that. And with Kubrick's movies, he always demands a good bit of artistic flexibility to kind of put those hidden meanings in things. I always enjoy his work. There's another guy. I didn't really know much about this fella, but the Willem de Kooning, a major exponent of abstract expressionism and I didn't know what action painting was.
Well, that makes two of us.
In the arts,
you have to educate us all.
Never heard that one. Produced a series called Woman 1 through 6. And it really caused a stir with its violent images and impulsive techniques. He died at the age of 92. And that makes me want to go check out what he did when you talk about action painting. And,
what is that?
It caused a stir. Like, what causes a stir when you're painting something generally abstract? Well, we're going to find out, folks. I promise you I'll have more to share with you on that. And then one of the worst fires in the history of the Philippines swept through Manila discotheque, killing 159 people of the 400 in the nightclub.
Wow.
This was in 1996. And, you hear these fires all over the world at times, and it's just like there'll be a place where there's 400 people packed in and, should have 100. And I tell you, when I lived in Mexico, that was kind of – you'd go in a place and it was built for like 70 people, and then
there'd be
500, and then you're going, this doesn't look safe.
Well, there was a bad nightclub fire, I think, right before Christmas, and I was reading something about it, and they said that one of the problems is exactly what you said. You got too many people in there, you're not paying attention to the fire codes. But then you get in those kind of nightclub discotheque things, and because pyrotechnics get used, that a lot of times people see a roof on fire and they think, oh, that's a cool feature. Yeah, and by the time you figure out that's not a dance feature, that's the roof on fire, it's too late. There's smoke everywhere, and everybody's running already, and it's too late.
And you probably aren't in the right frame of mind to really get it.
That is exactly
one of those
right.
things that seems to happen at discotheques or whatever you want to call them. American musician Bob Dylan released his eponymous debut album with mixed reviews way back in 1962. You a Bob Dylan fan?
Yeah, I like Bob Dylan.
Not bad. If you can understand what he's saying.
That's right.
1931, Nevada legalized gambling.
That's worked out for him.
Yeah, paved the way for the casino world, and or as we know it here, the casino.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They got a few casinos out there.
Have you ever done the Vegas thing much? Or?
Well, it's been a long time ago. I had some college friends who used to like to go out there, and I would go out, and I like it. Lately, I've gone out. They have these conferences that get hosted out there a lot of times. A lot of the big
lawyers.
Republican group. No, a lot of big Republican groups have conferences out there, which I always question the
moral force.
Well, I just didn't think it was particularly good politics. But they, I think because Steve Wynn and some others were such big Republican donors, yet they were able to get deep discounts on huge blocks of hotel rooms.
Unlimited hotel rooms and entertainment, too, food and all. It has to be an easy place to have a convention.
I know my
sisters had to go out there for a couple of conferences. I've only been for like a wedding and to gamble a bit.
Right.
Once, and I had a good time. I'm not a great gambler, though, as far as card games and stuff. I remember playing Casino War at the Bellagio, and that was the most fun I'd ever had in a casino. I'm like, high card, low cards, that was great.
The Flamingo in Vegas, I mean, this has been 20 years ago, but used to have a $2 blackjack table, which I really liked because you could actually play for a good little bit of time and not have to bring, it's not fun, I don't think, if you got to put enough money down that it's going to be meaningful when you leave. I know some people would argue differently, but I'm only comfortable, and I'm sure some people will give us their moral thoughts, but I like to play with enough that if I lose it all, I feel like I had a little entertainment, as opposed to if I lose it all, I'm going out and going, woo, goodness, hope they'll give us a few more days on the mortgage,
I feel the same way. The last thing before we go to break here, and people will love this one, 1918, U.S. President Woodrow Wilson signed the Standard Time Act, which established daylight savings time in the United States.
Interesting.
That legislation also gave the federal government more oversight, and that oversight was for the country's time zone.
We could have had a whole segment on daylight savings time.
Well, yeah, we'll get everybody. No one likes it, but at the end of the day, it's kind of one of those debates where you go, I don't know. I'd much rather it be like it is now, but whatever.
But I think that's the thing. We can talk more about it at some point, but I think what you really want is for it to constantly be summer. You don't really want to be showing up to work at 9:30 and it's still dark outside. So y'all stick with us. We're coming up on a break. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
The dog is howling, and the hound.
From this, pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Walks down the street, he says, why am I short of attention? Got a short little span of attention, and all my nights are so long. Where's my wife and family? What if I die here? Who'll be my role model?
Welcome back, y'all. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Lance, it seems to me we got a little bit of sports going on.
We do.
Now.
We'll start off with baseball setup because that's the quickest, and then we get into NCAA, both women's and men's championship, the brackets. I know everybody's excited about that, and most of that's 19th, 20th. It kicks off, so we're right there. And you'll also have Ole Miss starting up its SEC weekend schedule this weekend on a Thursday. They're 1-2 in conference, 17-5 overall, unranked. And they will take on Kentucky. That game will first pitch will be at 7 p.m. And obviously you want to tune in to SuperTalk Mississippi to hear the boys call that ball game. Ought to be an interesting one. Kentucky's number 15 in the country. Traveled to Oxford, Mississippi, coming out of the bluegrass, where I'm sure it's a little cooler up there right now. But Kentucky, they play a brand of baseball that's kind of station to station. They don't make a lot of mistakes, and they'll put some pressure on Ole Miss this weekend to see if Ole Miss can string some hits together and not depend quite as much on the long ball. We'll see, though.
But it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series?
Friday, Saturday series. That'll be 7 p.m., 6:30 on Friday, and then Saturday will be 1:30. So if you're in that area and you want to catch those games, there you go. Mississippi State 17-4. They are ranked up to 6 as D1 baseball states on March the 15th. Southern Miss is number 12. State had a nice little midweek win there, so they added another one to the feather to the cap with a beatdown of Jackson State earlier in the week. And they're going to take on Vanderbilt this weekend. They'll be in Starkville, 7 p.m. first pitch on Friday, Saturday 6 p.m., and then March the 22nd, Sunday, will be a 1 p.m. Vanderbilt, a team that had a really good weekend, pretty much knocked LSU out of the top 25 this past week. So I think it was TCU, LSU, and UTSA that got knocked out of the top 25 with poor showings last weekend. And so State is looking good, man. I mean, up there in the top 10 early in the season, buddy. Let me tell you. Southern Miss is up to 17-4. Had a rough week, weekend, I should say, at Arkansas State. As same Starkville. Mississippi State went over to Arkansas and had a little bit of a tight one too. So Arkansas wasn't very good to the Mississippi teams last weekend, but Southern Miss looking to rebound. They had a nice little midweek dub against Nicholls State down at Keesler Federal Park in Biloxi. And they'll take on Troy this weekend, March the 20th, Friday, 6 p.m. first pitch, Saturday, 2 p.m., and then on the 22nd, Sunday, that's a 1 p.m. first pitch. So that gets us caught up with baseball and conference play. And then we jump over to the NCAA ladies bracket. Ole Miss will play Gonzaga on March the 20th at 2:30. Number 5 seed Ole Miss versus number 12 seed Gonzaga. Ole Miss is in the bracket with number 1 UCLA, the 16th seed in that. The Cinderella, so to speak, would be CA or California Baptist.
Huh.
So they got Baptists out there in California.
Who knew?
Yeah.
We probably have to bring them in from somewhere.
Heck of a bracket with LSU in there and Texas Tech, Duke, Baylor, Minnesota, some big names. So Ole Miss will have its work cut out for us. But what a great season they've had. Ole Miss is a 13.5-point favorite over Gonzaga. And again, that is a 2:30 tip-off, ESPN2 ball game. That is March the 20th. And then we'll jump over to the NCAA men's. That bracket, we saw the play-in games, or the first, whatever you call it, the opening round. Most of these games are getting going today. And that is the 19th, obviously. And so Duke plays Siena at 1:50 p.m., and there'll be games all through the morning as well, like 11:15 a.m.
Yeah, so that's sort of the first one, right?
Basketball, yeah. Ohio State,
you got
TCU.
A little bit of time still to get your bracket in.
Yeah, you better get it in, because once they start shooting,
that's right, they're going to lock them.
They're going to lock them in. So it ought to be a fun one. I don't really have a favorite. I'm going to go with High Point. That's going to be my Cinderella-y team. They're a 12 seed. They'll play today at 12:50 versus Wisconsin. And the connection there is, well, we have a D-low, so I'm going to go with a High Point. You know,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I have no connection with High Point at all. But that's the way I play my bracket. Now, if you had to pick somebody in the men's and in the women's, or one or the other, do you have a favorite?
So my bracket has Arizona winning.
On the men's side.
On the men's side, and it's pretty chalky bracket. I mean, it's the folks, it's the high seeds for the most part.
Yeah, you went with the low hanging fruit.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the way to roll with it. But Arizona takes on Long Island on the 20th tomorrow, 12:35 on TNT. So you have games on TNT, TBS, CBS. It's kind of all over the place there with the men's side of it. True TV, that has like the Texas Tech Akron game, if you can find True TV. I've found it accidentally a few times. So that's where a lot of that action is going to happen. The ladies' games, you got like ESPN News, ESPN2, ESPNU, ABC. It's going to be pretty much everywhere you look this weekend over the next little while. It's going to be, especially these opening rounds, you got so many games. So
you got to get on every station that's out there.
So if you're a basketball fan, this is the time to play. Now,
I'm not normally a big basketball fan, but there's something about filling out the bracket. I mean, clearly this is the reason that all the people who broadcast basketball push the bracket so hard. Because now that you filled it out, it's like I think I need to watch this random game I wouldn't care about.
And my Cinderella team, I have both High Point men's. Okay, they're a 12 seed, and then the High Point ladies, they made it as a 15 seed. So that was one reason I went with High Point as a Cinderella, because both teams, the ladies and the men's, made it to their respective tournaments. So
yeah, and otherwise you're not. I mean, you're probably not watching a High Point game.
No,
during
I'm
the regular season.
Not doing it. But yeah, that was one of those. I thought that was pretty cool, actually, that both teams, the men's and women's, both made it to the NCAA. Kind of long shots, But that's what it's all about. You never know. Is there ever a NCAA tournament that you remember the most? To me, it's the Christian Laettner shot at the buzzer type thing back, when they beat, I think it was North Carolina. I can't remember, but that's the one iconic moment to me in basketball. NCAA was that Christian Laettner.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For me, it was just, I remember when State made it to the Final Four in '96, and what a cool thing that was. Because we beat
Dante Jones, was he on that team?
I believe so. And that was the year we beat Kentucky in the SEC championship down in New Orleans. But I don't follow basketball all that closely for anybody. So there aren't as many moments that stick out to me. But it's like a lot of folks, you get into this season of the year and you start paying a little bit more attention, if for nothing else than just to see how your bracket's doing.
Oh, of course. And some people will win and make some money. Somebody's getting paid on this deal.
Well, you saw some of the big. I mean, obviously it's advertising, but some of these big national groups, where they're, perfect bracket gets you $1 billion from somebody.
And we just, you talk about the online and mobile gaming. It's a big deal. You got Kalshi and all these prop
Maybe it was
bets.
Kalshi who had the $1 billion offer.
It's interesting to me, somebody that came from finance, where we call that derivatives. And that's what you played, it was the bet on the bet.
Right.
The side bet on the bet. And you see a lot of that coming into the sports world today. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but it is interesting to see so many different versions of the same bet.
Right.
Who's going to speak first or who's going to do that. It's pretty interesting stuff. I don't know how the odds work and who's actually making those bets, who the bookie is, but it's interesting.
Well, my understanding, and again, this is not legal advice. I don't know that this is true, but I've heard that is not, because of the way that's regulated or not regulated, you don't have the insider trading prohibitions that you do with stocks, right? So, as you know, Lance, if I work for Company X and I know that we're about to have a huge positive report and I go buy a bunch of stock with this non-public information and then it becomes public and I make money off of it, that's a crime. They'll send you to jail for it. My understanding is on these betting markets, if I know that, tomorrow the president is going to attack a spot in Iran that hadn't been talked about, I can go put money on it, and then when it happens, I can make money off of that, and there's nobody coming back and saying, well, you committed a crime. It's just how that works. Again, talk to a lawyer if you're thinking about insider trading on betting, but that's my understanding of a prediction market.
The derivative world is such as that. It's an unlimited, almost exponential leverage on a specific bet, let's say. If you look at the stock market as a bet, you go, well, I think IBM's going up.
At some level it is, right?
Right, or it's going to go down. Those are your basic, you're going long or you're going short. Well, if you want every version of that option out there, it's available to you.
Right.
Same as gambling on mortgages, and these are all derivatives. And so it's very interesting. You never really know who's coming up with these odds, who's coming up with the bet. As you say, the regulatory side is a little different there than it is in the mainstream market as well. Same with gambling.
Yeah. Well, that's as somebody points out on the C Spire text line, they only send you to jail for it if you're a civilian. So Nancy Pelosi can take a different approach than you and I could.
Well, and top level employees, generally the boards and the executives of large corporations, they're not held to that same insider standard. There's a rule, I'm trying to remember, I don't believe it's 144A, but there's a rule where if you have your money, say at Merrill Lynch, and you're the CEO or you're some of the big dogs, yes, you can trade on inside information, but it can only stay within that account. In other words, nobody else can actually use or learn, especially a broker that is within that firm. So, that's where a lot of the insider stuff happens, is where the broker actually gets information from an executive who has the right to trade off this and then trades for other clients with it.
Oh, that's very interesting.
It gets weird.
Yeah. Well, y'all, this is Lucian here with Lance, in for Richard Cross on mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us. We've got a lottery update coming up after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Well, it is time for your lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery Corporation. Lotto America had no jackpot winner. The jackpot for Saturday, March 21st, is $19.19 million. The numbers from Wednesday were 16, 18, 29, 31, and 39, a star ball of 7, and an all-star multiplier of 3. Powerball, no jackpot winner there. Its jackpot for Saturday is $120 million. Its numbers from last night were 14, 18, 19, 21, and 26, with a Powerball of 1 and a Power Play multiplier of 3. Mega Millions, a player in Van Wert, Ohio, had the luck of the Irish and won the $60 million jackpot by matching all 5 numbers plus the Mega Ball. That'll bring the jackpot for tomorrow to $50 million. Mississippi Match 5, no jackpot winner there, but the jackpot for tonight's drawing is $60,000. Last night's numbers were 13, 20, 21, 31, and 34. The first $1 million prize from the $30 Millionaire Maker scratch-off has officially been claimed by a lucky player from Pearl who purchased the winning ticket at Gas and Grub in Florence. Millionaire Maker has been one of the lottery's most popular games since January. Even after this big win, $9 million top prizes are still out there. Visit your nearest retailer to purchase yours today and visit mslottery.com. Follow the Mississippi Lottery on social media or download the official Mississippi Lottery app to learn more. That's something, $1 million scratch-off ticket.
Yeah, $30 I think it costs you to buy it, and then you can win $1 million on that. I believe that was our first millionaire on that. As well, we had a Powerball winner, not here in Mississippi, obviously, and a Mega Millions winner within the last, I think, 10 days. It's almost like it was...
A lot of winning.
Yeah, a lot, and been a lot of money paid out, but I don't think I've seen a Mega Millions and a Powerball hit that close together.
That's a good point.
Ever. So that there's been a lot of money been handed out in the last week, especially here in Mississippi, too, with that big boy right there, that $1 million winner.
That's a heck of a deal.
$75,000 winner yesterday, too. So
you pop in for a sausage biscuit, cup of coffee, and you know what the heck? I'll grab one of those lottery tickets while I'm here.
That's your best day ever right there, man. Come on.
A few folks here on Savannah's list who won. A Charleston man won a little over $1,000 on a ticket, a Cash 4 ticket from Sprint Mart 4117 in Grenada. A Brookhaven man won. A Brookhaven man won $5,000 on a ticket from Tobacco Mart in Flowood. A Port Gibson man won a $7,500 prize on a Millionaire for Life ticket. And players from Natchez and Sauché each won $5,000 on tickets from Be Quick number 10 in Natchez and Cy Quick Stop in Sauché. So those are a few happy people who have won thanks to the Mississippi Lottery. Remember, you cannot win if you do not play, but play responsibly. That's your Mississippi Lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery Corporation.
Well, I mean, you know, if you've been following the stock market a bit, I'm sure people have been a little bit worried about their money. You know, we're talking about winning money. You probably haven't been winning a lot in the last week or two, but
it's a good time to wake up and read about something else in the morning.
It is. You know, it's something you'll see these times where, you know, markets want to reset. They want to restart. They want to go on another run. You always kind of trade back down to these little support levels, and we're doing that. We're consolidating down here in that 46,000 range. It looked like a rough day on the market yesterday, but as oil prices continue to go up because of the craziness out there, with the Israelis lashed out and the Iranians lashed back out. One of the interesting baskets of oil that we don't ever really talk about is the OPEC basket. And that's at $135 a barrel. And we don't get a lot of our oil from over there, but obviously that is going to be part of what you're seeing, as well as the Brent, which is up to $115, changed of about $7.5 a barrel yesterday. Futures are showing it at about $114 and some change. So, that's what you're looking at there. WTI, West Texas Intermediate, is going to be 98.24 cents. So obviously still high, but we'd much rather see oil in that $75 to $88 range. That's healthy for the economy, healthy for you and I to get to work. And we also, the companies, when they say we make money, the American companies make money there. At these levels, though, yeah, you can feel it at the pump.
Absolutely.
Man.
I filled up my truck the other day, and I'm fortunate that truck takes just regular. You don't have to get the fancy gas. And when I saw, it wasn't completely empty. You'd pulled over just and thought, I'm going to go ahead and fill it up while I'm here, and saw that number, and I thought I'd accidentally put the high octane gas in it.
Yeah.
It was so much more expensive than what I'm used to.
You have that, and with risk premiums, obviously, these things are going to spike up and down.
That's right.
See it. And you almost go, well, somebody's making money on it. It's just not me. Well, unless you're trading it, you just got to go to the pump and fill up, and that's painful at times. I can assure you. I feel it too, folks. Hopefully we'll get this stuff back down in a minute.
Well, y'all stick with us. Coming up next is Fox News, followed by SuperTalk Mississippi News.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Mornings with Richard Cross, here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the SuperTalk app.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi, along with Lance Talbert. You are here for the second hour of the show, and you are beginning your day the very right way here with us on Thursday, March 19th. Remember, this hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Call today at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Well, we were talking about oil and gas a little bit before the break, and you're right. It is you were starting to feel the pinch over here, but not as badly as you are, as we were talking about off the air, in other parts of the world.
Well, that's something a lot of us don't pay much attention to. We wonder why our prices have gone so dramatically up. Think of this. Oman, okay? That's one of those areas over there that's under attack, and in the Middle East, the Persian Gulf area, $153 a barrel. Oman. Okay, that's one of them. OPEC basket, $135 a barrel. The Indian basket, $146. Dubai, $136. So you go, okay, they're paying those prices. Why is ours going up? Because this is a global market.
Right.
Because as they're over there going, hey, our prices are too high, they're going to lock in these West Texas intermediary prices that are much lower. And so it's a global market where they're hedging things. And so you and I are going to feel the pinch of that because the global market depends on that West Texas intermediary just like it depends on the resources and the supply of the Middle Eastern oil.
That's right.
It all comes together in a big bucket where there's different types of oil, but everybody wants it. So in the global traded market, you've got people out there in China locking in West Texas prices, So that's why we're going to pay higher prices. As long as there's a conflict in an area where there's a huge supply of oil, you're going to pay higher prices. I mean, if this happened in northern Russia, we didn't really see any increase in prices in Ukraine war or those things. But when you hit these areas where oil is absolutely the number one cash crop,
that's right,
it is going to make a huge difference.
And they're looking, Secretary Bessent right now is talking about the possibility of freeing up some additional oil Iranian oil that would be sanctioned, that's already on the water, that would help provide some relief there. Everywhere. So, but in the long term, the president has managed to begin, and obviously we've got to figure out how it ends, but the opportunity to dismantle the largest state sponsor of terror in the world, and also, you're watching him. You don't really get this coverage from the mainstream media, but you're watching him systematically dismantle the economic engine and some of the power that the Chinese Communist Party has in the Middle East and in the West. I mean, they're a major purchaser of Iranian oil. They also got a lot of oil from Venezuela. The modern economy, if you don't have access to lots of oil, you cannot prosper.
Hey, look at
Plain
Cuba.
Simple.
Look at Cuba.
Exactly.
Rolling
exactly.
blackouts, a third or fourth one in months.
Right.
A country just south of us that should not have the type of poverty and problems that they've had during the duration of the Castro brothers regime. But again, as I said yesterday, constant revolution gets you nowhere.
That's right.
You have to have stability. And this is what it looks like when you're constantly revolting. You constantly have this mind of revolution as the communists patterned their entire being on. Constant revolution.
Right.
Well, this is what you get. I mean, Russia blew up. Well, let's be honest, okay? All the rest of them, China's basically said, hey, we don't really want to be 100% communist. We're going to use some of these capitalistic endeavors, and we're going to work with them, and the government's going to have say-so in this, but it's not communist per se.
Not really. No, I mean, I think the Chinese are a lot closer to...
it's a weird setup, but yeah.
Well, I think they're a lot closer to fascism than they are to communism.
Corporately driven.
That's right. The state plays a big role in how the government, exactly. How these things work.
I think that's a wonderful way of putting that, too, much closer to fascism than you would see socialism or communism.
Right.
They've shifted a lot over the decades as they found that, hey, we can make stuff and we can sell it cheap and the world needs it. And to fuel that economy, you need oil.
Well, and it's fundamentally it is it's an admission that communism doesn't work if your goal is to raise people out of poverty and support human flourishing. I mean, the best thing we have figured out to improve the lot of humans in the history of humanity has been capitalism.
Sure. Well, I mean, communism is one of those things where, yeah, of course, it's really appealing to talk to a bunch of folks that are maybe poor or don't have, the things that the elite have. But what happens is you end up assassinating, executing, or exiling everyone that had anything to do with the economy,
right.
Growing it, the economic development, how you manage money. All these businesses now go defunct, and you have a bunch of folks that have no skills that you're going to put in the place to run these things. And look at what happens. It always goes bad.
Well, that's right. I mean, and it's because, communism sounds great in theory.
Utopia.
If you don't know anything about human nature and you don't know anything about history, right? Because the idea is the line from Marx is from each according to their abilities to each according to their need, that everybody is going to show up, they're going to do what they can, provide it, and then everybody's just going to take the little bit that they need. But the fact of the matter is, you're lucky if you like what you do for a living. I mean, I think you and I both enjoy getting to do this. Yeah. We both enjoy, how we make a living. But there are certainly mornings when I'd be happier. I mean, this morning, it's 40 degrees outside. Yeah. I'm sitting in a warm bed and the alarm goes off at 4 o'clock. I'd have been plenty happy to sit in that nice warm bed until I woke up naturally. And then, I don't know, maybe play golf, maybe go fishing, maybe walk around. I don't do that because I got bills. And that is what we figured out is the best way to get folks to do things is to pay them. I mean, folks who take you think of all sorts of the jobs that don't involve sitting in an air-conditioned studio talking about things. I mean, the folks who are doing offshore oil drilling is a good example of that. I'm sure some people do it because they enjoy the smell of sea air and a drill mud. Exactly. But I imagine most of them choose to engage in this fairly dangerous endeavor because there's good money in it and there's decent time off. Well, and they get to see good parts of the world.
With communism, you ask the people to take no risks.
Right.
And you take them. And government has proven that when they take the risks, they're really bad at business.
Well, you motivate people. I mean, the principal ways we figured out the ways to motivate people to work are you remunerate them, you pay them at a rate that gets them to show up, or you coerce them, which is why there's so much violence in all of these communist regimes, because if you're not saying go do the dangerous job because we'll pay you a premium to go do it, or go do the job that seems kind of dirty or nasty because we need somebody to do it, we'll pay you extra. You say go do it or we're going to shoot you.
You got a gun to your head.
And lo and behold, those don't prove to be prosperous societies where people flourish.
No, it seems that there's lots of revolt over many, many millennia of societies that don't appreciate having a gun to the head to make them go do something.
Right.
Where you give a pittance in return for that. Yeah, you have to take risks, and you have to be paid for those risks. That's where the market of capitalism comes in.
That's right. And you think about so many of the things that, people love to be down on the billionaires, but they sure don't mind getting on. They'll trash Jeff Bezos for being a billionaire or having a massive yacht or whatever else. Now, most of them don't mind getting on Amazon.com and having the deodorant they need show up that afternoon. Yeah. Well, Bezos had a good job. Why did Bezos, he was making six figures as a management consultant in New York. Why did he go take the risk to be dead broke? He did it because there was the prospect of great wealth that came from building a successful business. And the way you build a successful business is you provide something people want, so they voluntarily give you their money. That is the reason that when Gorbachev visited the U.S., he was shocked to see all the different kinds of bread that we had in the grocery store, because our system provided better outcomes for the people who live here. So
there's utility. The money actually gets reinvested so many times over again. As you go spend the hard-earned money you make at the grocery, then the grocery is going to buy stuff, and I mean, it keeps the flexibility of the dollar, of our currency works because there's demand.
That's right.
Because there's options. And the government really, truly does not get into the way of that in most cases. Of course, the money supply is the Fed's job, is to, keep the economy from overheating or getting too cool. But at the end of the day, supply and demand is generally the best mechanism for determining price. And then risk gets put on top of that to give the premiums. And that's where you make a living.
That's exactly right. And what we finally figured out is that is the best way to let people prosper, to make humans flourish, is the system that we've currently got operating here. Not to say it can't be better, not to say there aren't problems, but more often than not, what we need is less regulation and intervention, not more. Y'all, this is Lucian Smith here with Lance, in for Richard on mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us. We got more great conversation coming up.
There's no mess in. She's a about that little lady, and the lady is mine.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Remember, Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. We were talking about in the last segment, and it's just so true, that prosperity follows capitalism, which is the reason, by and large, that I think when you look in the U.S., the states that are prospering right now tend to be red states. And you're watching these people get in control in places like I say get in control. They've been in control for a very long time in California and New York. But you're watching the people in those states who just don't have an understanding of how economics work. run the money away.
I have a great question for you, and I'm glad you kind of segued that way, because as we look at the makeup of our Congress, whether being Senate or the congressional side, the representatives, obviously the president must be a U.S.-born citizen.
Right.
But why do we allow our congressmen who make the laws, who are in control of the power of the purse, why do we allow folks that aren't born here, that come here and get naturalized from places, let's say Somalia, that have no idea how the system works? But yet we're electing these folks under the auspice that they understand something. I mean, Ilhan Omar, no, I can name one after another of congressional leaders that were foreign-born that have brought their politics, their economics here, and you continue listening to them. Like, where were you born? Oh, yeah, that's right, you weren't born here.
To me, the second part of that is the real problem. I'm not bothered by people from foreign countries immigrating to the U.S., becoming American, and running for office. The problem is the people who come and hate America, who become, they become American citizens, but do they really become people who love this country? And I think Ilhan Omar is a perfect example of that. I mean, she is as anti-American as you become, and I don't think you've seen that historically, where people come over who want to be Americans, and I think that's probably the most fundamental piece of it. Not to say, to be quite clear, you don't have to agree with me on politics or policy to be an American, but you ought to have to love this country, and that's not what you see from that group in the squad. I mean, it is a virulent sort of anti-Americanism. I think you saw it with the Minneapolis welfare fraud, the way she responded to that. I mean, if you believe that America ought to have a generous welfare system that gives taxpayer money to people in need, shouldn't you be absolutely furious that there's fraud in the system? I mean, shouldn't you be jumping up and down and saying these terrible people who are stealing this money are taking it out of the mouths of babes who need that support? No, because I don't know if they're in on it in terms of putting money in their pocket. I kind of suspect they are, but I don't have any proof of that. But why are you against people pointing out and prosecuting and punishing that sort of fraud? Because at the end of the day, I think for some of them, I'm not sure it's really about helping the people in need. I think it's about helping the people who can grab on and get as much of that juice in their jar as they can.
I can't disagree with that at all. That's, part of the issue is the corruptive elements out there that, we have, and again, this is not an attack on the Somali community, but let's just say as a congressional leader, Ilhan Omar, there's one in Oregon and quite a few others that represent predominantly Somalians.
Right.
They're not representing Americans per se. They have a group of refugees that have come here. They get paid to come here, be our friends and all that. Then you elect your own person, and you're representing only a small segment of society. It's not representative of the area. It is now because you have imported 50,000 people to live in this one little area. It just doesn't seem very above board because the quality learning centers and things like that where the money just evaporates, and then you have these leaders that hate America.
That's the thing about it. But you look at, you think about the history of the U.S. going back even to the 19th century. All these groups that now people think of as being just very much part of the fabric of America. Mm-hmm. In 1848, when you had the big immigration from Germany and Ireland, at the time they were foreigners, right? And they're things that you think of now as being just very American, like everybody celebrating St. Patrick's Day, beer. I may get some feedback on beer on the C Spire text line, but nobody drank beer in America in 1847. We drank cider over here. There was a little bit, there was the light beer stuff, but beer was not the American drink. And then when the Irish and the Germans came over, that became a much bigger part of American culture. The Italians in the 20th century, but I do think that's the difference, is they wanted to be American. They may have brought customs from their home country, but they wanted to be American. They believed in the American experiment. They believed in what we were doing. They weren't here to grift off of the U.S., and I do think that's a problem, because that, at the end of the day, is what unites us as Americans is that we love this country and we believe in what this country is all about.
Well, it's the same with with poverty. Obviously, you want to help people who are in a situation where they don't see any hope. There's only despair. And you give them a roadmap, and hopefully they take that, and down the road, their lives are better because America and your communities have supported you. That's what you expect the result to be.
Right.
Not the other way around. Ingratitude and hatred and death to America.
Well,
that's not what you expect the result to be.
You're seeing it all over the world right now. The British, there's guidance that's come out from, they've had a massive wave of immigration from the Muslim world.
Oh, yeah.
And there was guidance that came out from some of the labor-controlled councils in the northern part of the country, advising schools to be careful about images of people which violate conservative Islamist views, advising them against using music in school that was anything beyond percussion instruments because it violates conservative Islamist views. I mean, if there are places in the world where you can go live under Sharia law if that's what you want to do, but it shouldn't be in places that have a rich liberal tradition. And to be clear, I mean liberal tradition in the best way. I mean rights-based liberalism. Which is a big part of America, not big L liberalism like the Democratic Party. And that's a problem. That's what unites us, is not saying, well, come over here and we'll suppress our women and make them wear hijabs because that's what you prefer. I mean, that's not the reason that you ought to come out.
And on that tangent, I mean, we're talking about a country that has been the largest state sponsor of terrorism across the planet for 50 years. Killing Americans, right. I mean, left and right. And people are going to say, well, Trump's only doing this because of Israel. No, I mean, you got to know your history a little better. Sure, Israel is a huge partner of ours.
Absolutely.
And always has been. But to say that Benjamin Netanyahu is leading Trump around and Hegseth and the crew by the nose saying, if you don't do this, then, we're going to do that. No. I mean, look, these guys have been evil.
Absolutely.
For a long time. And the guy, the goat that was running the place, he's gone, and they keep knocking off one after another because they got a roster of these dudes sitting there waiting to put in more Sharia law.
Well,
that's what they do.
That's the thing about the criticism of, I've seen all this stuff about, this is really Israel calling the shots. And it doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. I mean, to your point, they are one of our closest allies in the world. They're certainly our longest and most reliable ally in the Middle East. And because of the great role that oil plays, we have to have allies in the Middle East. I mean, that is
you can
vital
pay $200
for the U.S.
a barrel if you want to.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. If you want people who hate us completely controlling the oil supply, so having them as a partner is vitally important. But here's the other thing. You can criticize Trump for lots of things, right? I mean, like any human being, he makes mistakes. He's not always right. Nobody, we never had a president who's right 100% of the time. There's only ever been one perfect man. He's never run for president. But Trump, the idea that Trump is somehow controlled by other people is like you've never paid attention to Trump. I mean, the best part about Trump, and sometimes the worst part about Trump, is that nobody can tell him what to do. And so the idea that the Israelis kind of picked up the phone and said, Donald, we need you to go to war in Iran. And he said, oh, yes, sir, Mr. Netanyahu, is just silly stuff unless you're getting paid millions and millions, probably more like billions of dollars to do that.
There are a lot of them doing that.
Absolutely. I mean, I have no doubt there is money pouring in to get people to push those narratives. But anyhow, I think that's just a silly criticism. Y'all, stick with us. We're coming up on a break. We got Joel and Anand Samy, the host of America's Roundtable, coming up right after this.
If you bring your blue sky back, all you do is call me. I'll be anything you need.
Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
So much wasted, and this moment keeps slipping away. I can't
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Well, member FDIC. With us on the line is Joel Anand Samy, one of the hosts of America's Roundtable radio program and the co-founder of the International Leaders Summit. Joel, how are you doing this morning?
A very good morning to you, Lucian, Lance, and the team at SuperTalk Mississippi Media. It's great to be with you all this morning.
Well, it's an interesting time to be talking about public affairs, especially international public affairs. You're, I imagine, staying pretty busy right now.
Indeed, it has been a very busy season, and just over the years, we've come to realize how important American leadership is on the world stage, and also as President Trump, as Commander-in-Chief, one of his first chief responsibilities is certainly to uphold the U.S. Constitution and to protect and defend America. And we're seeing that happen on the stage at this moment, where American leadership does matter, and it's making a difference for the better and for a more secure future for our fellow Americans.
I think that's right, and there's certainly a current of isolationism in the U.S. right now, but I think one of the things people miss, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. You look at a country like Iran, in a literal geographic sense, it's a long way away from America, but it also directly affects Americans and American interests on a daily basis. I mean, so we can't really isolate ourselves from the people trying to kill and destroy us.
That's very true, Lucian. In fact, we had this conversation a few weeks back about this growing concern in America whereby we are having from certain corners and even within the conservative community or the center-right arena of this discussion on isolationism. And we know that has not worked when we look back into our history pages. America's leadership is so important if we are to advocate that role. Are we going to let China really start dominating everything out there and becoming the world's superpower? I certainly hope that Americans are not going to, certainly embrace that notion. So from what we gather in our studies and our research is that America's leadership is so crucial going forward. And we need to understand the complexities of it all. Iran was not just a state sponsor of terrorism, but the largest state sponsor of terrorism.
Amen.
It was not only terrorizing its the people in the region, Arab neighbors, Israel, but it was targeting U.S. troops. We know from the time that American troops were in Afghanistan and specifically in Iraq, the IGRC, the Iranian Guard Revolutionary Corps, they were responsible for all of these IEDs, these bombs that were placed on roads that killed a great many of our fellow Americans, over 600 of them, and a great number of them were severely injured. So Iran has been a threat from the 1970s, and we have to understand that if we are going to really compete in this world, we need a secure, safe world community, but also when it comes to trade, when it comes to all of these economic issues, we need safe passages, whether it's the Red Sea, whether it is the Strait of Hormuz, where if it's the Mediterranean Sea, for exporting our products to Europe and around the world. It is a new day, and we have to understand that America is not an island. We are interconnected with the world today.
I'm curious your thoughts on a couple of sort of related things here. I know the president called on our principal European allies to help with security in the Strait of Hormuz. They didn't respond to it. That seems like it might have been a tactical error that we didn't anticipate the problem in the Strait of Hormuz and already have allies lined up, or a plan at least put in place. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on that.
Right. First and foremost, I believe that President Trump and his team, General Kane, Secretary Hegseth, and others, when they planned this operation, it was done, probably even a year in advance, if one would probably look at the documentation. And they really focused on eliminating the Navy, the Iranian Navy. So they did keep that Strait of Hormuz in mind. And this is not the first time we've had a problem in this part of the world. Let's be honest about the fact that even President Reagan had to deal with it by providing military escort for ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz in the 1980s. And actually, President Reagan, had to eliminate at least half of the Iranian Navy at that time. So, here is history repeating itself. And once and for all, even the Arabs are saying very loudly, it's time to really eliminate this terrorist Iranian regime. To your point, Lucian, about the Europeans, unfortunately and disappointingly, the Europeans have always led from the basement. And what we have seen is that it's a process of appeasement. We would not be in the mess today with Russia invading Ukraine if we had principal leaders in Europe. They were actually helping prop up Putin and basically depending upon Russian oil. So their mess that they're in is more about appeasement. They should have stood up and supported President Trump when President Trump issued an invitation for them to help protect their vessels, which are passing through the Strait of Hormuz. This is something that impacts Europe more than it impacts America. When you think about even the Red Sea, which was attacked by the Houthis, a proxy of Iran. And we know for a fact that Europe certainly loves to lead from the basement. And it makes us question this whole group that we call NATO today. How effective is it? Can we depend upon the Europeans? At this stage, I would state that we cannot.
I'm also curious. I mean, I agree with you that the Europeans, by and large, have preferred to let the Americans do a great deal of the work. Not to say that we haven't had allies in the past, but we've generally protected Europe since World War II at our expense. How much of what's going on now is a function of that long tendency of letting the U.S. lead from the front versus sort of post-Syrian refugee crisis, the changing population of those countries? There was a video of Sir Keir Starmer in the UK talking to some groups at a Ramadan political event, and it almost seemed like he was trying to make political hay of the fact that the UK hadn't been aligned with the U.S. at the beginning of this.
Yes, I think that Britain's Prime Minister, unfortunately, has displayed weak leadership from the very beginning when he took office at 10 Downing Street. So one of the things that even his opponent, Nigel Farage, has communicated, and Nigel has clearly articulated the importance of America's special relationship with the United Kingdom and how both countries have stood together in many of these challenges that we've faced over history, whether it's World War I, World War II, intervening in the Balkans in the 1990s when much of Europe were actually debating amongst themselves of where to meet in order to stop the Balkan conflict. So as you rightfully mentioned, Lucian, that there is this population issue that countries like France, Germany, the Nordic states, including the UK, are facing with this surge of immigrants coming in from the Middle East, those that may tend to really focus more on the Sharia law. And we are seeing political leaders in Europe actually kowtowing to this group, appeasing them, and not standing for our values, our rule of law, our Western civilization, and the principles that we certainly embrace, which are the rule of law, which protects life, liberty, and private property. So Europe's leaders are really showing weakness. Well, there are some of these leaders that are standing up and standing with the United States, but they are few and far between. But also there is another growing concern of certain countries in Europe, such as Croatia, since the 1990s, has been dealing with Iran. They've been purchasing oil. They've been purchasing weapons. And as recently as last year, over 1 million barrels were found in a Croatian government facility. This was sanctioned oil. Croatia happens to be a NATO and EU member. So we are seeing, and I think that the U.S. Congress needs to initiate an investigation. Members of Congress need to investigate what is happening with NATO actually aiding and abetting a terrorist regime like Iran. So there has to be accountability. And as you've rightfully mentioned, American taxpayers continue to pour money into NATO. We are defending Europe.
That's right.
And it's time for Europe to step up and support America as well.
Joel, we're coming up on a break. Do you have time for one more segment with us?
Indeed, it would be a great honor, Lucian.
Well, y'all stick with us. We'll have more here with Joel and Anand Samy on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, y'all. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. I still have with us Joel Anand Samy, the host of America's Roundtable radio program, which you can listen to here on Super Talk, Mississippi. Joel, thank you again for being with us. Who do y'all have this weekend? It's got to be a great discussion.
Indeed, we're looking forward to having a senior executive from Palantir, a company that you probably have heard of, which is involved in the tech software arena. And they have a new book by two of their senior executives that we will be talking about that brings to our attention what really is happening really on the global stage and about China. So we're going to be focusing on that and other issues as well as far as the state of our U.S. military and what needs to be done to really prepare it for the second part of the 21st century.
So I'd love to hear more about that because you'll remember, and this goes all the way back to the early 90s, when Dick Cheney was Secretary of Defense, the stated goal of the U.S. military was always to stay technologically 2 decades ahead of any potential rival. My sense is we're well away from that, and I wonder, do you think America is in a position to continue to maintain technological and other military supremacy over our potential rivals, principally the Chinese, moving forward?
Well, at this stage, in reading part of the book before our interview coming up in just a couple of days here, the fact is that America is behind. And on a number of fronts when it comes to our military preparedness. And I believe that President Trump and his team are really working 24/7 to changing that. And that is something that is so vital for us as we are not just addressing a country like we did during the Cold War, but we're looking at China, which really has a goal of dominating on all spheres, economically, militarily, and I'm sure we certainly do not want our descendants to be speaking Chinese in the future. So that is something that is a serious concern for us here in America, and there needs to be more done in making sure that the next generation is really prepared to face the challenges and the threats that it will experience in the future. And American leadership is so important now so that we can protect our shores and America's interests around the world.
In terms of everything that's going on right now in the world, it does feel like the president is being very strategic about these conflicts, specifically vis-a-vis China. I mean, I get the sense that we're trying to systematically cut off the major supporters of the Chinese economy, and also the toeholds that they have in the West, like Venezuela, that allowed them to exert influence in our sphere of the world. Do you think that's a fair assessment of what the president's doing?
I would say the president is truly a visionary leader. And a lot of what people are saying today is that his thoughts, his ideas really go back 50, 60 years ago when he was really observing what was happening at the national level, but at the international level as well. So when we look at what is happening in Iran today, and I think the Spectator magazine really had a great article about this, and its title is Why the Iran War is Really About China. And if it would be possible, I'd just like to read a brief excerpt from that, Lucian, just for your listeners, so that they can understand what this war is all about. And I quote, "For years, Beijing quietly assembled a network of dictatorships and client states designed to blunt American power. Iran supplied China with cheap oil and kept Washington bogged down in the Middle East. Russia waged war on Ukraine with Chinese material support, a gamble that was supposed to cement a powerful anti-Western axis, but has instead bled Moscow into dependence on Beijing. Regional proxies from Lebanon to Gaza added just enough chaos to stop Washington focusing on China. The Chinese Communist Party propped up Nicolas Maduro's Venezuela, too, as it funneled narcotics and other ills into America," unquote. So as we read this very interesting excerpt from The Spectator and look at what really is happening on the global stage, the Iran war is really about China, and also what China is doing to disrupt the world on all fronts. Let us keep in mind, the cyber war that we're experiencing right now is coming out of, the attacks are coming out of China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea. And so this is something that we constantly have to be vigilant about and very focused in addressing the China threat.
Amen. That was well said. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Joel, thank you for being with us. And everybody, make sure to check out America's Roundtable this weekend, 7:30 to 8 a.m. here on your SuperTalk station. Thanks, Joel. You have a good one.
Thank you very much, Lucian.
Y'all stick with us. We'll have more coming up. Coming up next is Fox News, followed by SuperTalk Mississippi News.
Your home or where you're from. Abbeville, Batesville, DeIberville, or any other ville in the SIP. You're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Here in the 8 o'clock hour of this great morning on Thursday, March 19th. Remember, Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. We've talked a lot about Iran the last hour, so it was a good conversation with Joel. He's always a thoughtful person. We've had a few people on the chime in on the C Spire text line. And remember, if you want to be part of the conversation during this or any of the shows on Super Talk, send us a text at the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. But people who've said that this is just like the Iraq War. And I hope that particular listener is still listening, because I'll tell you a couple ways that I think it's different. One, we are not boots on the ground in a meaningful way right now, and there doesn't appear to be any plan to be boots on the ground right now in Iran. There were boots on the ground in Iraq essentially from the beginning. There was that shock and awe phase that today is the anniversary of, where we that was a little bit later, but where we began airstrikes in Iraq and invited the Hussein family to step down and turn themselves in. There also were the weapons of mass destruction allegations in Iraq that were made that ultimately proved not to be correct. On that point, that doesn't seem to be true in Iran. We know they've been pursuing a nuclear program. We know they've been seeking a greater quantity of enriched uranium than they would ever need for a civilian program. We know that the U.S. offered to provide them with enough enriched uranium for a civilian nuclear program, and they said no to it. A couple of other differences. The biggest difference, I think, between the two of them is national cohesion. Now, the Iranians have a lot of different ethnic groups over there. Everybody's not an Iranian in terms of an ethnicity. They got a lot of them. But the country of Iran, not the exact same borders, certainly not the same government, goes back literally thousands of years. Julius Caesar planned a campaign against the Parthian Empire. The Parthian Empire had taken over a previous Persian empire in that part of the world. I mean, this is a country with literally thousands of years of national identity. Now, lots of different ethnicities inside. It's not going to England in 1900. I mean, it's a diverse place, but there is an identity of being an Iranian, being a Persian that goes back thousands of years. There are biblical references to that country, not just that region. Iraq was drawn up by the British after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, which was the end of World War I. So you had immediate infighting there that had been held together essentially purely by strong men for just about 100 years. So taking out a dictator was hugely destabilizing there. And that's not what we've done. I mean, the president so far seems to be following more or less the approach that he took in Venezuela with Maduro, where he has eliminated the senior leadership and is continuing to eliminate the senior leadership and sending a message that once the senior leadership wants to start working constructively with the U.S., that we will stop eliminating the senior leadership. So we are not seeing a massive intervention on the ground. We're also, in Iraq, the mistake that the U.S. made, and I'm drawing a blank now on the name of one of the Iraqi expats who played a big role in the U.S. believing this. That, we were told we would be received as liberators by a lot of the Iraqis. That was not the case. You are seeing massive celebrations in Iran and throughout the Iranian diaspora in the world from people who view this, who are actually Iranians, who view this as a real positive step. You didn't see that nearly as much with disinterested people after the Iraq War. But the biggest distinction is we don't have boots on the ground. And I think the final huge distinction, and this is something that Joel made a great point about, the Iranians are the single largest sponsor of terror. I mean, they are working to kill Americans every day. They are a major partner of the Chinese. This has real implications on a global basis for America and what's going on in the world. And so there are some real distinctions. I understand there's the concern about returning to multi-decade wars without clear objectives. But right now, the objective appears to be to destabilize a well-funded regime that works hard against the interests of the United States and helps provide a lot of oil to the Chinese. And I understand the interest in some sort of isolationism of just, let's just do our thing, go to work, raise our families, and be left alone. That's not an option we have. We are the leader of the world. And I've said this before, but I will say it again because it is such an important point. Someone is always the leader of the world. The technical term that gets used in academic literature is the hegemon. That's the word. Someone is always the hegemon. Now, there may be periods of time where you may have multiple hegemons who are fighting for control, but somebody's in charge. And so the choice that we have at the end of the day is, do we want the Chinese Communist Party to be the hegemon and running the world, or do we want the United States of America to be the hegemon and our values to be running the world? That's fundamentally the question. And these sorts of encounters, these sorts of combat situations are what are going to make that decision over the course of time. And the president seems to be taking strategic action to make sure we continue to be the leader of the world, and that is fundamentally a good thing.
Well, and there's another strategic side of this, too, that I don't think many have discussed yet, but there are 40 million Kurds living in between Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, and some parts of Armenia. And people worry about boots on the ground and that. What I've read and have a lot of insight from the research is that the Kurds will be likely the boots on the ground. Now, you go, well, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to draw out the IRGC. That would be the point. Is then you could use the superior air quality you have, the big guns, the ships, and then you can target. So, again, I think it's very different than the Iraqi war in other strategic ways as well, because you do have a Kurdish population that basically was left out of the recarving of the Middle East after World War II. There's 40 million of them. There are a lot of them. And so, again, I think the Kurds are the wild card there. If there is going to be engagement, on the ground, I have a pretty good feeling they're going to try to get the Kurds to draw out the hardened IRGC. Therefore, you could, take them out without necessarily the larger scale or the more guerrilla-style battles that we're used to seeing in these types of settings. And then the other thing is this is a president operating on a quantum way, not a linear way of thinking. With all of the threats we have, you have Cuba, you have Venezuela, you have Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea. China is working with all of those. And he sees this, and so do a lot of his advisors, is that it's not just a linear one way of going. This is we'll solve this, and then we'll solve that. And there's a lot going on at one time. And he's trying, it seems to me, to employ multiple heads of a beast to solve a bigger problem, which is, like you said, China.
That's right. And maybe somebody can chime in on the language point here on the C Spire text line. But my understanding is that in Chinese, we think about things like war, conflict. I mean, that's how we would say things in English. That the Chinese use a word that's closer to struggle, that can both imply literal kinetic action and actual war, boots on the ground, shooting missiles at each other, and but it also encompasses things like economic conflict, struggle over who's in charge, and they would already describe themselves as in struggle with the United States. And so it already encompasses, in the way they're thinking of it, the potential of armed conflict, but they don't necessarily distinguish it the way we do from all these proxy conflicts, from what they try to do on the economic side, because in their mind, they are directly competing for global supremacy with the United States, and they're trying to do it. And we just do not want to live in a world that somebody else controls. It's a different set of values.
Well, and you can look at the people of Taiwan. They were Chinese. They were the democratic folks. They had to hop on a boat and get the heck out of Dodge. And China wants Taiwan. That is an American, very well supported American ally over there. And so if you really think that this doesn't hit it home, I mean, Taiwan, think about that. Look at the place. It's a huge economy. It's extremely developed. And China wants it. And again, they're not going to stop.
That's right.
They're not going to stop there if that's what they get. So you got to find a way to put up the barriers to slow down their progression of, in their mind, like you said, dominance.
Well, y'all, stick with us. We'll have more coming up after this break. We'll talk a little bit about some things going on inside of the United States. This is Lucian here with Lance on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
All right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important. Huge news.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
If you're down and out and you feel real hurt, come on over to the place where I
Welcome back, everybody. This is Lucian Smith here with Lance and in for Richard on mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We are brought to you by Community Bank, as always. Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Jumping back to a conversation we were having before about economics and the people who understand the way economics work, it's been interesting to see the surprise from the leaders of places like New York that the people who have built businesses and therefore built great wealth seem to be fleeing. As you've got, you have the mayor of New York more or less saying, they're just going to fleece the rich to pay for all of his plans. You've had that general tendency out of the leadership of New York State. And then you had Kathy Hochul, the governor, almost begging for the rich people who left to come back to New York and explaining that she needs them to come back so she can have their tax dollars to pay for all of the social programs that they have there.
Yeah, that's a great sales tool.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that anybody would be surprised that you have this soak the rich approach and talk about how billionaires shouldn't exist and these people need to be taxed just much, much higher than they are now. And then lo and behold, they choose to leave.
And who pays for all that? Who's going to give everybody great teeth and free shoes and phones and, the cars and the no loans or no interest loans? Who's paying for all that?
That's right.
It's the taxpayer, brother. The government doesn't operate a business.
No, every dollar it takes, every dollar it has, it takes from somebody.
So basically you're asking rich people who you've demonized to come back and pay for all this stuff that, not really many people want, it seems. Not the ones that are paying taxes.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to jump back for just a second to the Iran war, and I promise we're not going to be on it for the rest of the 8 o'clock hour.
Oh, come on, man.
I've had a couple people on the C Spire text line who've said that there are paratroopers who are currently in Iran. I have not seen confirmation that we have boots on the ground. And so, two quick things. A, would not be surprised to find out we have covert operations going on in Iran, as we often do. There have been reports that we're sending troops to that region, but I have not seen confirmation from the U.S. government or from a major news outlet that we actually have units on the ground inside of Iran. But if you've got that, send it to us at the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395.
A lot of cases, there are people there. Now, I don't know who they are because
we
these
got
bombs
people
aren't
on the
just
ground.
dropping
right.
And without a laser to target highlighting them. You can watch quite a few of the videos where there's obviously a laser on it, a laser. You can see it flashing, and then the bomb hits. So somebody is there in the vicinity.
Yeah, no, we've got assets.
Who are they? I'm not sure.
Right, but the point I was making compared to the Iraq War is we are not currently. Things change, but we don't currently appear to have a definitive plan to send U.S. troops in large numbers onto the ground in Iran to secure it. Mm-hmm. Coming back to the U.S., and I may mispronounce his name. Is it Tallarico, the Senate candidate? Tallarico, is that how he does it? Some phenomenal video of him in a mask explaining to a group of, as I appreciated, animal rights activists that his campaign had gone vegan because we need to respect the dignity of animals. And, you eat what you want. I'm not, everybody can make their own decision about what's right. I think more meat is better than less meat for health and probably for the environment. God kind of figured this thing out. Anyhow, but there's this video that came out of him saying that his campaign has gone vegan. Of course, he's wearing a mask. Now, it was 22, so it was a few years ago, but it was still pretty late for that. And it's just when I grow up, I want to be a Democratic political consultant who works in Texas, because every couple of years, you can think about Beto O'Rourke. This Tallarico character now is doing it. It's like they get somebody and they say, guys, we got a chance to beat the big bad Republican in Texas, and all we need is you, wealthy person in San Francisco, to send us as much money as you possibly can on the Act Blue network so we can turn Texas blue. And the entire national media gets on it. I mean, there's no reason. I couldn't tell you a Democratic candidate in a Senate race almost anywhere other than Texas, because he's gotten so much coverage, because they've tried to portray him as the guy who can finally win as a Democrat in Texas. And, it constantly just blows up because the folks who run the modern Democratic Party are so out of touch with the central part of this country that they just don't have a clue at what actually resonates. Like, this guy apparently is he's in seminary, and it's like they said, oh gosh, we got a Christian, and we're going to put him out there, and everybody who's a Christian in Texas is going to go, well, hell, the Democrats have a Christian. We got to go vote for him. And then you hear the guy talk. He's pro-abortion. He at his acceptance speech, he talked about how God is non-binary. And somehow they still think this guy is going to sell in the heartland, which is just silly. But I guarantee you, Lance, between now and November, they are going to raise absolute boatloads of money. I mean, at least tens of millions of dollars are going to pour in for this guy.
Yeah, it's a great point you make, too. I mean, it seems like an extremely fringe perspective to have. But yet the money is not indicative of the support.
Right.
And that's where we've gotten in politics, especially probably more on the federal side, where you have slush pots of money coming in to buy races, that really the money is not indicative of the support for that candidate.
Not at all. And they go and, I mean, I'm surprised there hadn't been litigation about it, and maybe somebody will come up with a novel theory and go do it, because it borders on, it's not quite fraud. But let me tell you, a Democrat's not going to win in Texas. You can spend $1 billion down there, and you're not going to get a Democrat who has the views of the current Democratic Party in this country. Now, if all of a sudden you could resurrect a Democrat from the 1980s who was actually espoused mainstream Christian views, who didn't wear masks and tell people that he was running a vegan campaign and they had vegan pizza that day, sure, maybe you could be competitive. But somebody who's going to run on a mainstream Democratic position right now, which is very far to the left, is not going to get elected in Texas. But they go out to these very wealthy people in other parts of the country and convince them to give huge sums of money, which I'm sure the consultants take a nice little piece of.
Sure, they get their cut.
Yeah, but it happens every year. And it's been funny. It's funny watching every cycle. I mean, Beto O'Rourke was the same way. They were making documentaries about this incredible Beto O'Rourke who was going to finally defeat Ted Cruz. Not going to happen. If Ted Cruz leaves the Senate, Ted Cruz is going to leave the Senate because he chooses to, or because he gets beat in a Republican primary. Those are the two ways that Ted Cruz will end his Senate career.
Well, and the Democrat side of the party definitely encompasses many more fringe groups, many more, I would say, special interest type groups. And, it's always been interesting to me how they're very good at galvanizing those groups together, even though many of them share nothing in common. But, when it comes to protests or coming to the point of being heard and being loud, the small minority has seemingly a too big or a larger majority of the voice, of the clicks, of the social media. And that may be part of it, to me, is that social media, that click, I mean, what if somebody clicks it 50 times? So all of a sudden that looks like 50 different people support that message when it may be one person.
Yeah.
So I think that is magnified exponentially. The fringe groups have a loud voice, but they're a small minority, and they're really good at making sure you hear it. Whereas on the conservative side, it's almost like, we'll go to our jobs, go do our things, whatever it may be, raise families, and you don't get, embattled into these fringe type of debates. But, at the end of the day, like I said, I think the money is extremely heavy-handed as to actually how many people support these causes.
And I should say, I was talking about Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz. This is a different. Cruz isn't on the ballot this year. John Cornyn is, who's in a primary with their attorney general over there. But
Paxton, right?
That's right. Paxton is the challenger there. But nevertheless, I think the same thing applies. Republicans are going to win in Texas. I don't think Paxton would be the right nominee because of a lot of baggage that he brings to bear, but I still think he will win Texas no matter who the Democrats nominate. Y'all, stick with us. We're coming up on a break. We've got a great segment coming up next with Dr. Steve Bishop, the president of Southwest Mississippi Community College.
I was over Aberdeen on my way to New Orleans. Let them Aberdeen women told me they were my gasoline.
From the state, wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on Super Talk, Mississippi. We've got with us on the line Dr. Steve Bishop, the president of Southwest Mississippi Community College. Dr. Bishop, how you doing?
Hey, good morning, Lucian. We're doing great down in Summit. You doing okay today?
Hey, I cannot complain. How is Southwest doing?
Southwest is doing well. We, of course, made it through the storm on Wednesday night. We had a hurricane come through our campus Wednesday night about 7:30. Just found out a couple of days ago that there were 3 confirmed tornadoes in North Pike County.
Really?
So we're fortunate that no one was injured. We did have some damage on our campus.
It looked like the library got hit pretty bad, didn't it?
Man, yeah, it did. It had 5 trees on the library. Had about 204 puncture holes in the roof, they say.
Goodness gracious.
So, library did get pounded. We've had an adjuster here for a couple of days, should be here another day or two, just to look at our entire facility. But we did have some damage, and thankfully it wasn't as bad as it could have been. We did have damage to about 5 buildings. But again, we're grateful that it happened during spring break when there was not a whole lot of students here.
I was going to ask you, so that no people were hurt. It's just a building problem.
That's right, Lucian. We've got some damage. Like I said, just some residual damage with signage and sidewalks and fences, things such as that. We did have about 60 students on campus. Wednesday night, we had our baseball team here. Softball was here. Some tennis players were here. So thankful that they were in their safe place and they did what they were supposed to do, and everyone came out okay.
That's well, I'm very glad to hear that piece of it. And it was late enough at night it didn't disrupt the sporting events.
Well, that's right. Well, they were here. They weren't playing at the time. They were getting ready to travel the next day.
Okay.
We have some games throughout spring break. It enables them to get some games in if they have to travel. They don't miss class and things such as that. But we do have a few events even during spring break, even though we don't have classes.
That makes sense. Well, other than the weather, which has been severe, how are things going at the college right now?
Yeah, well, thank you. We, of course, we started back our classes yesterday. We had 2 days of virtual instruction. We just having a very busy spring semester like everyone else is. Well, athletics and many of our student groups are going to conventions and things such as that. We've had a busy semester in the classroom and our labs all over campus as usual. And getting ready for our spring stage band show. That will be the 26th, 27th, and 28th this month. So they came back all excited about getting ready for that show. Faculty members came back and we actually have kind of a little mini work day tomorrow afternoon. Any employee who would like to stick around and help us pick up limbs and pine cones and things such as that. So
I bet there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah. Just today we have a junior high math competition on campus. And as soon as we get through speaking, I'll go over and give that welcome to that group. And so we're back to as much normalcy as possible with a busy semester.
People, I think we forget sometimes what a jewel Mississippi's junior college or community college system is. I mean, how fantastic it is. We've got these high quality, affordable institutions that for a lot of people can be local. I mean, not, I know people live on campus, but you also can stay at home and begin your post-secondary education.
Absolutely, Lucian. We have arguably, or not arguably, the best community college system in the country. We have 15 very strong, comprehensive community colleges around the state, strategically located so that our students can have access to quality education, not only just the classroom setting, but they can enjoy an outstanding campus life, college activities. They can get involved in things that can help them in their major. They can get involved in social activities, athletics. And many states do not offer that. So we're one of the very few who can brag about that. We have many majors with career technical education, academic education, workforce training. Here in Southwest and all of our community colleges, we try to be the hub of our communities. This community depends on us a great deal for things like dance recitals, beauty pageants, meeting spaces throughout our campus. Our workforce training center is used a great deal, our fine arts facility, our student union. People use our campus for birthday parties and
I'm sure.
And anniversaries. So definitely Southwest is the hub of this community, and we like that. We embrace that here on our campus, and we have the staff to do that, and we're accommodating. So, but you're right, our community college system enables students to go to their local community college, or they can travel. Many of our students, even now, they may live in one part of the state, but they may travel an hour or two to another community college based upon what programs that they may be interested in. We have students in Southwest right now from 48 different Mississippi counties, not to mention about 15 states and 7 or 8 foreign countries at this time. So we are a community college, but here recently in the last decade or so, more and more students are reaching out and taking advantage of the community colleges around our state. So we think that we have an economic impact on our local areas. We know that we do, and we certainly are grateful for that. Community colleges, we all work together. We certainly want to beat one another on the athletic fields, but we certainly have the same goal in mind to educate Mississippi, develop a strong workforce. And I'm confident we're doing that, and I think Mississippi recognizes that now. So, thank you for mentioning that. Yes.
So, where all do most of your students end up coming from Southwest Mississippi? Is that the biggest geographic concentration, or is it more mixed than that? I heard you say 45 different counties, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, most of our students do come from our local counties. Southwest is supported with local tax monies from Wilkinson, Pike, Amid, and Walthall counties. But we do get students from, I would say, the general area within an hour or so. Most of our students are within an hour. We do have 635 beds on campus. We have 5 dormitories. Just recently built a brand new $13 million women's dorm.
Wow.
Out 105 students. Just moved in there in August. But yeah, most of our students do come from the general area, but we do have students from North Mississippi, down from the coast, at the edge of Louisiana. We're 20 miles away from the Louisiana line. So we're trying to reach out to our adjoining parishes to entice them to come to Southwest Mississippi to go to college. And while they're here, they'll certainly, buy gas and help us with our economy. So we're reaching out to our neighbors. They're only, like I said, just a few miles down the road. But we do emphasize the Mississippi student, and we've had great relationships with our local high schools for many years.
Now, are you from a Mitt County originally? Or am I making that up?
Yes, I grew up in a little community called Gillsburg, Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
no reason for you to remember this, Dr. Bishop, but we actually met at the Mount Vernon homecoming weekend about 3 years ago. My grandmother was from that exact same community. She's a Brabham from down there.
Absolutely. Listen, I remember that day, and actually, I'm going to be back at Mount Vernon in October for their homecoming service there. So
really,
I did. Before I became president, I served as a bivocational minister of music for 22 years, and Mount Vernon was one of the churches that took care of me for 3 years and was able to serve there. So I do remember that day, Lucian.
That's a great little part of the state, great community. And my mother, who's an avid listener, may hear this and decide we're going to the homecoming in October. So I may see you there. We're coming up on a break here. You got any final thoughts, Dr. Bishop?
Oh, I'll just say that as far as the cleanup on our campus, just want to let everybody know that it could have been so much worse, and we're grateful that the good Lord took care of us and there were no injuries. We've had so many people from our area, our staff, other volunteer areas, volunteer groups coming to help us out. Certainly we've had to bring in professional crews as well. It's going to be very, very expensive for us, but we came out just fine, and we're going to be good. It's going to take us some time and a lot of hard work, but we're going to be back to 100% very soon. So we appreciate all the support.
Well, thank you for being with us, and I look forward to seeing you in October, possibly. Y'all stick with us. We got more coming up.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
It's happening. You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Lucian Smith and for Richard here on Super Talk Mississippi. Mornings, as always, are brought to you by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Now, I was going to say, I had to play a little Leonard Skinner there, given that our last guest is a Gillsburg boy. October 20th, 1977, that chartered Convair CV-240 ran out of gas, killing 6 people on board near Gillsburg in a swamp.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I had to throw that out there for the good doctor.
And I think, like my grandmother, I think he's from Gillsburg, which is if you're, I mean, that's sure enough rural. People think they're rural. I mean, it's a great part of the state. I grew up going down there and swimming in the little stream. I mean, it's a great area.
You can swim the creeks and streams down there. The Bayou Pierre.
Right.
I've swum it a good bit over the years, and a lot of turkeys down there, beautiful rolling hills. It's a hidden gem to me. My grandfather did a lot of business in Hazelhurst and Brookhaven in the car business, so I remember we'd stop through there.
Oh, yeah.
Knew everybody and everything, and I always loved that area, though.
Yeah, it's a great part of the state. It's a great part of the state. And you really are. I mean, he said it. You're right by Louisiana. My grandmother actually ended up going to Louisiana State because it was so much closer than the state universities. And this was far enough ago that Southwest Community College, I think, was still an agricultural high school at the time. So that wasn't a...
Yeah, my dad spent a year at Co-Lin back
really?
in the day. Yeah, he went to state first for football. Got homesick and wanted to get out of his scholarship, and so they wouldn't let him out, so he had to go to Colin for a year, then ended up playing at Southern Miss, where my mother was, and he was closer to home and all that good stuff. So that was a long time ago, but the Mississippi community college system is phenomenal. It really is.
It really is a great opportunity. And I mean, I remember Governor Barber used to talk about what a wonderful opportunity it was, especially for the affordability piece of it, because it was a great opportunity. I mean, they do tons of skills training. They do tons of workforce development, which is all vital. But Governor Barber's point was that in addition to that, it was a good opportunity to go and try to figure out if a 4-year college made sense for you.
Well, and for many, you have great skills. You have the ability academically, financially. Maybe that's not the place you want to be in a 4-year to start out with. Maybe it's easier to get to and fro community college. I had 2 cousins that are brilliant. One ended up being a dentist. The others worked his way into the technology world long before tech was something he talked about. And he ended up at Southern Miss. The other went to Ole Miss to get the dental. So
and that's a much bigger commitment,
but,
going across the state.
But the first 2 years, they both spent at Hines Community College. Got a great baseline. Were able to parlay that into scholarship and then go have amazing academic career for the final 2 years. And
that's right.
Off to work, man.
Or end up with, I mean, they got great skills training and more, I mean, as AI is coming in and knocking some jobs out, already you can make a bunch more money in a lot of the skills trades than you can with a 4-year degree. But I think that's going to you're going to see even more of that as robots and computers can do the stuff that, folks with 4-year English degrees used to do. You're going to see a lot.
I should have been an underwater welder.
No joke.
The money those guys make, goodness gracious. Now, I know it's risky, but, I mean, technology, you got good equipment, and these guys aren't just plugging you in down there and going, all right, we'll check on you later.
But that's a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier about why communism doesn't work. I mean, I don't think anybody's welding on the bottom of the sea because it sounds fun.
Not without a gun to their head.
No. You're either doing it because somebody's paying you a lot of money to do it, or you're doing it because the other opportunity is to get killed by the government.
Or, they'll put you in a gulag somewhere.
Yeah. And in both cases, I could see making the choice to go down and do some underwater welding.
Yeah. Can you imagine the guys over there at Chernobyl? You think they were volunteering to go in because they were getting paid? No. Those guys, there was 18 dudes with machine guns over there going, you better go in there.
Right.
Yeah, that's how this works.
Have you seen that the miniseries on HBO? I don't know. I never watched, or I didn't say never. I just started it.
Yeah, man, it is.
But it's gripping.
That's why kind of gripping and morbid. It is absolutely a deep dive into what the people there would have experienced.
Yes.
And it just blows your mind, too.
It's incredible.
There aren't more in that regard, because, I mean, you think of these communist countries that really, in some cases, likely are not overly staffed and maybe dealing with shortages. And all of a sudden you got a nuclear reactor here somebody's not paying attention to. So, it pays to actually make sure that the economy works and that people are getting paid. So they'll take the risk to do these jobs.
That is what we have figured out is the way to do it. Y'all, thank you for starting your morning with us. This is always the fastest 3 hours in radio, but it sure is good stuff. Stick with us. We got more great stuff coming up here on the Super Talk. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Coming up next is Fox News, followed by Super Talk Mississippi News.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.